two-video day. It's a two-video day today. I just posted this video on the consequences, the benefits of being real, and the last 2 minutes got cut off. I don't know how that happened. So just to end that first video, what I wanted to say was live free or die, but don't die. Just live free with all that conversation, and live out your heart, live out your truth. And if some people reject you, it happens. It happens. It happens a lot, actually. So the next thing I want to talk about, if that's all right with you guys, is this whole thing of the future is female. Let's talk about that. There's been a huge conversation with the future is female for like the last 10 years, right? Well, let's define female, because I'd really like to know what they're talking about, and I'll tell you why. Because since the 1960s, they've been telling that women should act more like men in order to get ahead, to be just as cutthroat, to like you had the power shoulders, in the 80s, the whole like women can do everything kind of stuff, and it made for an entire generation of women that did not value at all being what actually the original definition of women was. There was a duplicitous that happened that went, television is so evil. I did this installation, I'm just going to say this real quick. If you're interested in one of my installations that I did a few years ago, it was called Campground, and I got like 40 televisions donated to my space, and every time people showed up at the space, they had to take a hammer or like anything big and just destroy the television. And there's a reason for that. Because the television went into every single home in the 1950s and 1960s and propagated to women that were in the home that you're a loser. That by being a mom and trying to raise up your own children based on your own values, your own individual belief systems, that you're less than, you're owned by your husband, and you're less than. And they would always show like the worst case scenario examples to try to like cover everybody's situation by going, well, your husband's probably abusing you, and your husband's taking advantage of you, and you need to hate your husband. Now you need to compete with your husband to show him that you have value in the world by competing with him in a really gnarly system of industry that shoves you out of the home. And then women would become secretaries. But what did their bosses really want, especially if the girl was kind of pretty? You got your secretary side note. And then you go into the modeling industry. You want to be an actress. You want to go into politics. If we're really honest, and I'm old enough, I don't look it, but I'm old enough to say finally, after so many years being put in those situations, the end game is sex. To get the job, or to maintain the job, or to get the raise, or to get the opportunity, or to get that new role, or to get that next art show, or whatever. And then women who didn't want to go that way, they had to be very hard. They had to start looking like a man. They couldn't look like a woman. They couldn't look pretty. They couldn't look like a woman because they would get objectified. Because ultimately, I know this is going to sound archaic to some people, especially kids that are in their 20s, because they're so indoctrinated in this stuff. But the point of the matter is that we were supposed to be the prize, not the competition. Think about that. Now, I've dealt with, and I've been around the Beverly Hills Hillel Jewish community. And one thing that I found was so beautiful about that community, I was allowed to be the art teacher for a couple years in the Beverly Hills Hillel Academy. And I walked away with so much inspiration of what it meant to really be a woman, and loved and cherished, and the whole like idea of you're the prize, not the competition. The men know exactly what their job is, and they have a high level of integrity of what they do, and they value what they do on a high level, which creates success because they value exactly what they do. And when they marry and they focus on finding a woman that they want to marry, they do everything for their wife. And it creates a safe place for the wife to just focus on what inherently they can do beyond money. Creating a beautiful home environment. You know, like I love to garden. I love to creatively make beautiful spaces, create life in lots of different ways. And though I've never had children, that's what they do. And they spend this amazing commitment on their kids, and they work as a community. It's not just the individual family. That community within Beverly Hills, they're so attuned with each other. The older children watch out for the younger children. There's such a cohesiveness, and there's such a care for each other, a bond. And being able to watch that, because I'd never experienced that, you know, in my own life. Everything was dog eat dog. You know, when you're a kid, you better prove to your family that you're worth something, so you better hurry up and like get something on your own, but then also whatever you get, you've got to give to your family, and it's bizarre. But being able to watch that, you start to see the real power of true femininity, not the mimic. And there's a mimic that's going on right now with the future as female, and I'm going to just like throw this idea out there and see what you guys think of this. Specifically in the art world, they're pushing a lot of drag queen mentality, and this is the thing that gets me. Because if the future is truly female and there's women empowerment, why are they pushing people like Beyonce that's a high-level temple prostitute? The future is female not in a powerful form of being a prostitute or a stripper, or inherently shaking your booty in order to make millions of dollars. That's the most disgraceful concept of what is considered the future as female. It's disgraceful. The second thing is this idea, and I think Disney pushed this a lot, with indoctrinating through their movies and their television shows, and also humiliating young men to thinking that they're so terrible that it's better to have a female empowerment in their energy rather than truly being a male. There's a reason for that. Now you've got a lot of boys that were raised by single parents, mothers, that told their boys that their father was a terrible person, being a male is a bad thing. And so these men, when they're watching Disney movies, they want to be the princess too. there's a hijacking of femininity, but even in the worst sense of a way of being a princess rather than being a mother. And I'm going to talk about the difference between the two, because there's definitely a difference between the two. Disney, if you notice, they never talk about being the mother. If you notice, all the characters, the children characters, the child characters in all of the Disney films, they seem to always be orphans, or there's not a strong mother sense. It started with Dumbo. If you remember the scene in Dumbo, which always makes me cry because it was just so traumatic. The mother in Dumbo was confined and controlled. And when she finally lashed out against the circus owners, she was jailed up and ostracized. And there's that scene where Dumbo, I'm not gonna cry, where Dumbo goes to the cage and the mom puts her nose through the cage and she just, oh, I can't even go there. There's something that happened in that scene for people that have watched that. And that happened, what, like the 1940s, the 1950s is when Dumbo came out? There was a systematic trauma of any child that watched that film that subconsciously said any mother that is a strong woman in the motherly sense is going to be shut down and shut up. And then they push the princess. So what's the princess? The princess is it's like a Kim Kardashian. It's a concept of a woman or a girl thinking that they need to be this sexual entity that has their hair just right and their makeup, and they worry about money and they're going to get their money. They wear their big high heels. I'm going to mention how important that is with the high heel thing. But their highest power is getting money from men. Prostitute. They never follow through with becoming married and being a mom. When you have your feet to the ground, when you feel nature, when you connect with life, that's why they always want high heels. Even platform heels now, they push. It keeps women away from the ground of feeling life. When you know that you're connected with being able to breathe life into the world, literally by having children, but also breathing life into your husband's ideas, breathing life into the home, breathing life into all kinds of different things that has nothing to do with money. That's the biggest power a woman can have. And that softness, that kindness, that compassion, that empathy, that time beyond money to be there for the things that really matter in this world, and to be that prize for the husband that has to actually go out into that world that is super gnarly to make $1 to create a safe space for the family. That all got turned upside down in the 1960s and the 1970s. And it was propagated that you were less than to be like that, and you were literally abused by being like that. And so go out into the work world. And do what? Because if you look now at what the opportunities are for women to be able to be supposedly independent, what's really out there? What really makes the money? Becoming a prostitute, an escort, a sex slave. Because everything else is $12 an hour, right? So there's that aspect of it. Or if you want to be high-level business, you have to actually be have the energy of being a man. In the worst case scenario, in the worst sense of the way, the worst sense. Look at Hillary Clinton. Nightmare of a woman. Nightmare. She will do anything and everything for $1. And she's harsh. Listen to her voice. Look at her face. Look at how she treated Chelsea. I mean, look at what she's about. I mean, really look at it. Dang, man, that's some cold-hearted stuff. And we're supposed to look up to her as the futurist female? Hell no. Hell no. And then you have another aspect of men that are trying to hijack the idea of the futurist female, that are literally trying to become female in a mimic sense because they're jealous of the empowerment that's being pushed by third wave feminism. They're so ashamed of being a man in any way, shape, or form that they're literally trying to transmorphically turn themselves into a woman. And then you've got men trying to hijack the concept of what a woman is. And it's not for anything more than what they call artistic design or the Baphomet, because they know exactly what they're doing in the arts. It's complete Baphomet. Look up Genesis Peorage. Genesis Peorage is a big time early mover and shaker in creating the hermaphroditic philosophy through witchcraft, through music, through he was involved with so much from the 1970s on with music, art, tech, raves, drugs, high-level tantric Luciferian Buddhism that says that the two energies of the male and the female need to align in order to be real. When he was with a woman that he loved apparently loved so much, but these people don't know what love is. They just know envy. He wanted to literally consume her, and I think that he did, in order to be what he considered whole. This is envy. This is the extreme version of envy. You know, I had someone the other day, and it really bothered me. There's a man that said to me, it really shocked me. He goes, "I wish I had your hair." A man. He didn't say, "I appreciate your hair," you know, or "I think that you look really pretty and you know, as a woman, that's really attractive." Oh, that's really bright. He said, "I wish I had your hair." Think about that. Envy. I'm gonna walk over here because it's really big. Envy. Do we work off envy? Is that what all this is really about? And if it really is all about envy, we're losing the value of who we are inherently, and who we can actually be in a strong sense of the word for the other person in a really solid relationship. Most women that get wrapped up into this third wave feminism, they won't admit it, but there's like this pride of thinking that they can take care of everything on their own, but at the same time there's a subconscious like despair of they wish that somebody was really there for them. I overheard someone last night say, "I'm the perfect girlfriend because I don't need anything from them. Anything I want, I can buy myself." Let's dig into that. When a man really loves a woman, that's their thing, to want to give stuff and kindnesses and joy, like their energy that they do for a job or whatever, when they want to give something to a woman, that's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing. And why are we going to shame a man for doing that? Pride? Yeah. It's completely bizarre. And yet, another thing that happened that I noticed with some of the drag queens that I knew that were really involved with what CMU was pushing, and this new wave of performance art in the hermaphrodite philosophy, they were making their money for $20 an hour, just showing their body in the most debased ways possible, and it was just ugly. And it's also very vain, very prideful, like the worst sense of the feminine energy of like walking around and just like, look at me and this ego thing and whatnot. Like, so everything's getting turned upside down, inside out. So what is the definition of a woman? You know, at this point, I think like that's fair enough to ask, because everything's getting so confused. And I know I've been confused in a lot of ways. I grew up not being able to feel that a man cared about me for various reasons. And so I felt this thing of like, I need to take care of everything for myself, because unfortunately that was told to me by close relatives. And I had to undo a lot of that and learn that being soft, being compassionate, being understanding, keeping my feet to the ground, not wearing a ton of toxic makeup, accepting my body for what it is and being happy with that, and learning that your biggest power is breathing life into other people and into the things that you do that has nothing to do with money. You know how to grow things, you know how to make those things happen beyond money, especially now that we know how discredited money is in the first place. The energy itself is always aligned with super duper negative things. So, and do we want goddess worship? No, that's crazy. That's the same conversation as saying that you're going to worship any kind of idol. That makes no sense. So that's all I got to say about that. I'll probably have some more thoughts in the future, but the whole thing of the future is female, and then just how it's being twisted in so many different ways that actually has nothing to do with actually being a woman. It's really weird. It's really weird. And if you also notice with the whole future is female thing, they never talk about children. Wasn't that what we inherently do? It's a thought.